Hello, my name is Donna Marie, health coach, yogi, and death doula. I'm also the host of the Best Life of Wellbeing podcast, designed to encourage you to focus on your overall well being by stepping out of your comfort zone and stepping into embracing your whole life in order to live fully and die peacefully. Inya Akoma. Today we celebrate Black Love Day with William Smith Jr., owner of Fed Legacy, where we'll be discussing abundance, mindset, spiritual transformation, connecting to our roots, legacy, and a whole lot more. Thank you for joining me, Mr. William Smith of
Mhm.
Fed Legacy Group. So first, can you tell me all about Fed Legacy Group? What is it about? What do you do? And how did you start?
It's funny. So Fed Legacy is, well, first, thanks for having me on here. I appreciate you. It was awesome meeting you. I just love your energy. I love following you. So thanks for letting me be a part of this. Fed Legacy is we're a financial management company that services federal government employees. And so we've been doing it for 10 years plus now. Is that you got feedback? Or
Nope. Nope.
okay. And so we've been doing it for 10 plus years now. And the reason why we've been doing it is because I'm just a big believer in the black middle class. A lot of times the black middle class gets overlooked, whether it's through government programs, whether it's through just all over, just financial education, things like that. And so I just saw a need for black middle class people to have a financial education because I believe that once you educate the black middle class, it could really pull up the rest of our race and really even support the rich, so to speak, right? Um, because for a couple of reasons. One, um, ideas come from those who are financially stable, right? And so one of the things that I'm always pushing towards all my clients is like, what is your gift, right? That's why I wanted to have you on our podcast because it's just like, what is your gift? Because you giving your gift uh, creates a better community. But the only way you can truly give your gift is if you have capital, if you feel like you're okay financially, right? Because if you're not okay financially, you'll always be in survival mode. And so the whole goal is to get our people out of survival mode so we can become creators. And I believe that through Fed Legacy and what we're doing will impact the current people that are working in the government, but then mainly their kids and their grandkids. Because if they're leaving money, then the kids won't have to go through the same quote unquote struggles that the current generation is going through. And so that's our whole mission in Fed Legacy.
I think that's a beautiful mission. And,
Yeah.
and when I hear you talk about what is your gift, that just makes me think about mindset.
Hmm.
First of all, if you never ask a powerful question, then you don't create the opportunity for someone to think
Yeah.
about who they are. And so
Yeah.
that's a really powerful question. And it helps to change the mindset so that it opens opportunities to become creative and
Yeah.
to also consider your legacy, your
Hmm.
what you're going to leave to the future generations. And again, it all starts with mindset. Mindset
Yeah.
is so important, right?
Yeah.
And I know you struggle a lot with people, I'm sure, with mindset. And when I say that, I'm talking about
Well,
people
me
who
too, though. Like my mindset, certain areas of my life, I'm like, I got to do better with mindset. And sometimes, it's interesting because I get why people don't change their mindset because sometimes you're so busy, you don't have time to do the silent work that it requires to change your mindset. At least for me. And so one of the things right now, one of the things I'm trying to change my mindset around is, believe it or not, it's just abundance, right? So, Fed Legacy is at a certain place, but I want to make it even bigger. And then even within myself, and you're actually, this conversation is a manifestation of me shifting my mindset because even though I do financial planning and life insurance for people, what I really want to do is this type of work, which is helping people expand themselves, right? Helping people live their gifts. And I would love to travel doing that type of work. And so, but sometimes I feel like, you know what, I don't have the time to plan that business. But again, it goes back to the abundance mentality and just harnessing that for myself.
I'm so happy to hear you talk about abundance and traveling. And one of the things you mentioned to me is wanting to. You mentioned your business just now, but one of the things you mentioned to me previously, prior to this conversation, is wanting to one. In the podcast I did with you, I talked about my work being spiritual,
Yeah.
and everything is spiritual, right?
Yes.
And so you mentioned to me how you are interested in bringing your spiritual perspective, your spiritual side, your spiritual abundance, and aligning that with the work that you do. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what you just said.
Yeah.
And so tell me how do you, how does that look to you?
You know, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I do a lot of stuff outside of Fed Legacy, but a lot of it's like segmented. So like I'm a part of this group called the Conscious Leadership Group, right? Where we meet once a month, and we talk about like mindfulness and leadership. So I'm a part of something like that. And I've been part of that for a number of years. I'm also a part of another group called the Mastermind Connect, which is a group of men who are just looking to just grow themselves as people. Um, and so I'm in those groups, but how I bring that stuff together and mix with business, I don't know yet, right? But I could see myself over time, like um, I could see myself over time just doing talks and doing leadership workshops around this stuff. I haven't quite figured it out. I just know I put myself in position to learn and soak stuff up and be around those type of people.
Well, I will say I truly admire your commitment to what you're doing now. And I
Yeah,
think that's the foundation, showing up right
yeah,
now, right? And
mhm,
so one of the things I admire is that in your group you're there at noon. Five, is
yeah.
it 5 days a week, or are you?
We try five. But I'm sticking to five. I stopped for a little while, but we're back on it. Yeah,
And just having a message to share
yeah,
every day
yeah,
is a commitment.
yeah,
It's, and it shows your heart. Every time I see you in the group
yeah,
sharing,
yeah,
I see your heart.
yeah,
I hear the message, but the message is also a heart message,
yeah,
because like you said, you care about the middle class, and
yeah,
you care about legacy. You care
yeah,
about people becoming creative
yeah,
in, what's the word? Creative in, I want to say tailoring, but crafting
yeah,
their life.
yeah,
One of the things I believe about legacy is how our words create so much of our legacy. So again, you showing up, everything that you've left with people, they'll be able to talk about how you touched their life and how you changed their life and how you changed their family's life. You know,
mhm,
um, and so with legacy, being able to tell your daughter, son, mother, father, I love you. And also doing that talk, but walking that walk. I love you. And so this is how I express it every single day. Your children are watching, other people are watching. People who might not be so respectful of their parents are taking notes from how you honor your family. And so all of that is so important to creating legacy. And again, I think you will do great things because I see your heart.
yeah,
And so I want to get back to something you said about silent. I know you recently went to Nigeria.
yeah.
And what was Nigeria about? Talk to me about why you
So
were
I
there.
went to Nigeria. I'm always on a well when I go through difficult times, I always like reach to God, so to speak, right? And it's always interesting because I always find a new level of God every time. And so what Nigeria was about, I went to get initiated into this tradition called Ifá, which is a Yoruba tradition. And so I went to a village in Nigeria, in Abeokuta, Nigeria, and I went through an initiation process. It was a 3-day initiation process in the village of Africa. Of I was amongst nobody spoke English except for two people I was there with. Only two people spoke English. So yeah, and so that was, and for me it was a thing about just connecting to different aspects of God. And so it was a West African tradition. So it's very in your face. It's very masculine. It's very active. Um, and so I just enjoyed that process. So that's what Nigeria was about for me. And just returning to your roots.
How did you learn about the retreat? Was
Well, it
it-
wasn't a retreat, it was initiation. It
Oh yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
no, I
Sorry,
don't
sorry,
think they do
sorry.
retreats in Africa.
Let me rephrase that. How did you learn about this initiation? And
So
was there any work you had to do in advance of going to Africa to prepare for the initiation?
So you don't have to do well. So okay. Let me tell you the whole story. So the first question you asked is how did I know about it? A friend of mine introduced me to a really good friend of mine who is a Babalawo. A Babalawo is a trained priest, like a high priest in Ifá tradition, sort of like a um, what's the Jewish? So it's like a Jewish rabbi. Yeah, like a rabbi, but he's a Babalawo. So he's a young guy, but he's spent a lot of time in Nigeria. So he's been in the tradition a while. So a friend of mine introduced me to him. Me and him got really tight, and we started doing what they call Odus, right? And so an Odu is where you do a reading, right? And it's a divination process. So where they call down the Orisha, and the Orishas then give you an interpretation of where your life is in this current period of time. So we do every 17-day Odu, right? And so every 17-day Odus, one came up for me like, okay, it's time for you to do your initiation in one of them, right? Sometimes they don't ever tell you that, but in mine one, it was like, okay, it's time for you to do your initiation, if I initiate. So I was like, okay, and so that's how I found out about it. And then you asked another question. What's the next question you asked?
I asked you, did you have to do any preparation?
Oh, and okay. So the prep work. So in IFA, the prep work is you do an Odu, and then IFA is very Old Testament like, in the sense that it revolves like sacrifice, things like that. To me, I appreciate that as a man because I feel like as masculinity in society has been taken away, like the hunter gatherer spirit of masculinity, I feel like is gone. Um, and so what I like about the sacrifice part of it is we meet every day, you know what I mean? But like we don't like back in the day, the men would hunt the meat and they would kill the meat and then they would serve it to their family, and there was a respect in that. But now it's just like, let me get some chicken and whatever, and you just eat it, and you don't have no respect for the fact that that was a living thing. But in Ifa, preparation for that is like you do what they call ebos, which are your sacrifices. And so I had to do a bunch of those, and that is a life-changing experience because, again, you have to pray into these animals, and you pray into them, and then you sacrifice them, and then you feed them to the family. You after you prep it and all that type of stuff, but you just have a whole new respect for life. And so you do a bunch of that, and then that's the prep work for Africa. Then you got to do your stuff like your American stuff you got to do to prepare to leave the country stuff. But the main prep work is just getting okay with the bows.
Okay, and then when you are there in Africa, other than the sacrifices, can you just give me an idea of what else you're doing?
Yeah, so when we were there, like the first day I got there, like they have different Orisha, right? So when I got there, a friend of mine was getting initiated into a Lokun, right? So a Lokun is the Orisha of the ocean, right? And so we were there. They had a woman who is from Benin. She's from Benin, the Benin city, which is a city in Nigeria by the water. So her and her friends, they all came, and we went and took it was like almost like a 4-hour drive to the ocean. And what we did was they did chants to Olokun, sang songs, fed like vegetables, fruit, stuff like that, and just do it in the ocean. And it was just an amazing spiritual experience. And so we did that. That's one thing we did when we were there. The next thing we did was a part of the initiation. You invoke the spirits, right? And so that requires like lots and lots of dancing. Like our people like to dance. You know what I'm saying? Like we are dancers. You go to the Baptist church, stuff like that. Like people are dancing. And so there's a bunch of dancing, a bunch of chanting, and it's part of the initiation process. And it's like you want to quit, and sometimes you're like, I'm so tired. But you just got to use that next level of energy and it just raises the vibration of everybody, you know. And so like we did that, and that was good. And then they had what's called the masquerade. And so the masquerade, and this particular one was tied to the Olokun initiation by the ocean. So they had people dressed in masquerade, like full like outfits, and then they would come out and they just dance in the party. But it's just something about having these people in full on costume, dressed as a spirit, raises the energy of everybody, and everybody wears white. That's there, and so we did that too. We did a lot of stuff, but like those are the things that stood out as far as like things that just brought up a lot of energy for me, anyway.
You have a new name?
Would you say?
You have like a new name or
I do. It's Ifá Tokun.
Ifá Tokun,
Yes.
which means
It means son of the ocean.
okay.
Yeah.
What does that name mean to you, Boo?
I mean, I guess it goes back to that abundance piece. It's like, yeah, it's just that abundance. The ocean is abundant. And so I've been really tapping into abundance lately.
I applaud you for taking that step to do something outside of our American tradition, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And incorporating those new practices in your life.
Yeah.
It sounded like it was very spiritual yet mystical.
Yeah.
Was it your first time in Nigeria?
It was my first time in Nigeria. The first time I went to Africa, I went to Ghana.
Okay.
And that was spiritual too, but it was just different. For me, Ghana was more so looking for purpose. And then it's funny because Ghana was more so looking for purpose, and I found like I wouldn't have Legacy Empowerment Group or Fed Legacy, we changed our name, if it wasn't for my first trip to Ghana. And so it's interesting now that I've just got back from Nigeria, where the trajectory is going to be in my life now, and I haven't really set with that yet.
So my question is, how did you reach this point of wanting to make this change, this spiritual transformation? Is it because of the Mastermind Connect group and
Nah, it's more so just I had a really tough relationship last year. That's really what drove it. And but that also showed me like, okay, well, you got to finish doing your spiritual development. And one thing that happened for me was part of my life's destiny is to do work like how we're talking right now, like wellness, well-being, mindfulness, consciousness, all that stuff is like that's part of who I am. But what I did was I got away from that and was all the way in business, and it just wasn't sitting right with my spirit. So I had to get reconnected to spirituality, and it took a relationship to get me back there. And so now, yeah, now I'm now putting those roots back in place.
so isn't it amazing how awakening works? I was
Yeah,
sharing with a group last night um, that one lady mentioned the word becoming. She's like, "Yeah, we want to get to where we're becoming," and I'm like, "Yeah, before you become, you got to wake up, and that awakening is can be painful.
yeah,
It can be ugly. It can make you feel depressed. It
yeah,
can because you got to deal with yourself and be real with yourself.
yeah,
And if you were making good money and doing the business and recognize that life is deeper, bigger, and more than
yeah,
this, a lot of people don't do that, Billy.
yeah, yeah. And it's it's funny, Donna, because it's so tough. It can be tough, but it's good. But I was talking to about my Babalao, and he just has awesome insight. And so I was just telling him about some of the difficulties I'm having, because it's a transformation for me.
Yes.
Because it's like it's easy to do one thing, right? But then it's like when your spirit and your destiny is putting you in another way, you're like, man, like I want to do this easy thing, but God's telling me to do something totally different. Um, it can be difficult. It can be difficult, but that's where those tools come in, like support, community, meditation, silence, reading, faith. You know, for me, having worship every morning, things like that. just really helped build that toolkit for me.
Were you are you or were you a Christian?
I grew up 7 Day Adventist.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I had to unlock a lot of that church trauma.
So after going through the IFA process, do you consider yourself a Christian now?
Nah, I didn't consider myself a Christian before then, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I still like one of the things because I even though my evolution, I had to like quiet Christianity and like push it to the side, like I don't believe in this, blah blah blah. But then I realized like that was really hard for me to do because it's so programmed into my subconscious.
Yeah.
So I was really fighting myself, and so I'm at peace with, I understand what Christianity can do. I have no problems with it.
I
But
posted a video of my son. One of the things he said is that I'm culturally Christian.
what does that mean?
That's how he was brought up. That's part of his culture. And
Yeah,
because it's part of his culture, he can't just abandon it and say it has no it's not positive in any way in his life. It got
yeah,
him to where he is. So
yeah.
culturally, he's a Christian, but he practices Buddhism.
Oh yeah,
So I want to flip back a little bit to Fed Legacy.
sure.
So can you share specifically with me what type of products and do you do coaching? Like I hear you talk a lot about how you work with people to change their financial situation. So how do you do that?
So we do it through two ways, mainly. Two ways. That's how we help federal employees. We help them understand their TSP, which oftentimes people don't understand. They have no plan. They have no idea how they're going to retire. They have no idea when they can retire, what it's going to be like on the other side. So we help people get clarity around that. That's the first thing. The second thing we do is we help people understand the federal employee group life insurance, because the closer people get to retirement, their life insurance gets very expensive. But unfortunately, a lot of people procrastinate on making that switch. And so it gets more and more expensive. And so what we want to do is we want to help them make that switch as early as possible so they can put more money towards their TSP. Right. And so that accomplishes another thing that gives them longevity as far as their life insurance, generational wealth created, and it gives them more money when it comes to retirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do any mindset work with people? Like this sounds
You
like
know what?
me,
This,
but
this is therapy for me right now because I don't. And so what ends up happening, Donna, this is why I love working with people like you, is because you help me raise my mindset because of who you are as a person. But most people I deal with, I'm trying to bring them up out of the muck of like scarcity, um, fear, all that stuff. And so a lot of times I end up being down there with them. And so that makes it difficult. But I'm now working on myself, like conversations like this, to bring myself up because I don't do mindset with people, and I know I need to, so I don't do it
okay.
to the level. I do it enough, but I don't do it to the level that I know I can. Right, and so what ends up happening is a lot of people say, "Hey, Will, man, you really inspire me," but I have to do a better job of doing it for myself and lifting people up even higher. If that makes sense.
No, that makes really good sense. I
Yeah.
mean, you mentioned the energy through dancing, like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
the energy kept you going, but you wanted to quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're surrounded by all of this beautiful energy, and so that energy helped to propel you to,
Yeah.
overcome your desire to quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the same way in business and just in life, it is important to be around like-minded people, and not just like-minded people, but people who help to lift you up, and
Yeah.
not just people who lift you up, but people you can offer a lift to as well, because
Yeah.
life isn't about taking, it's about give and take.
Yes.
So
For
I'm
sure.
grateful to hear you say that I inspire your life, because
Yeah.
you have no idea how much I've had to think about life insurance.
Yeah.
and
You've
I've
been thinking about it a lot.
a long year, and
Yeah.
obviously I haven't been consistent with my thinking because it has been years, and I haven't, I've had insurance, but at first I thought term life insurance was the best option for me.
Hmm.
And then I started thinking more and more about, okay, what happens when this term ends, Donna, and you're
Yeah.
older and life, insurance costs more? Like,
Yeah.
What's your game plan? What's your
Yeah.
end plan?
Yeah.
And so I've gone back and forth. I've talked to many, many people, and I'm so appreciative that you are patient when we have
Mhm.
conversations. You don't mind pulling up the same conversation from years ago and
Mhm.
saying, Donna, we're full circle now. We're right back to where we started. One,
Mhm.
you still have the record of the first conversation,
Yeah.
and you can bring me back and help me to see myself. So
Okay.
what's you said you don't know what's next?
So I don't know. And I'm learning to be in the space of not knowing to see what comes. Like I didn't strategize this call. I'm learning to just deal with the things in myself that, like, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and I was saying, the more we think about ourselves, we constrict ourselves, right? But when we think about other people and we're solely thinking about like what's in it for them, right? We have expansive energy when we think about it like that. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm trying to work with myself on all the areas that gets me stuck, where I'm just like, oh, that's a trigger. So then I close in and I'm thinking about myself. I'm worried. I'm in fear. And those areas, like, it's things that get me like that. And so I'm learning to just untie those things so that I can be more expansive, which will allow more opportunity, more insight, more serendipity to come my way. And so I don't know, but right now, so you asked what's next. I don't know, but I know for right now, I'm working on untying those things that trigger me and bring me and close me in and shrink me.
I'm so glad that I met you. I don't even know
Yeah.
how we met. Um, I
I
don't.
think you responded to one of my. I can tell you. Hold on. We keep detailed records. Our first time talking was you came through on May 25th, 2018, and then we had our first meeting in person. Yeah, we had our first meeting in person May 28th.
Wow, Memorial
Yep.
Day weekend.
Yep. And that's it. We've been talking since all these like phone
Right,
conversations.
we have been talking and getting nowhere.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
not really not getting anywhere.
No,
I just said yes.
long-term relationship. I mean, but it's I don't that's the thing. Like we don't like I tell my team all the time. We're not in the sales business. We're just in the people helping business. And so if you're in the sales business, then you have all these techniques of like pressure sales. Like, well, okay, if you didn't buy this, you could buy this. If you didn't do this, you could do this. Or I'm not talking to you again if you don't buy today. Like that high pressure sales environment. We don't really do it like that. It's like, all right, because we know we're going to be here for the long term, and that's why we always give value. Because it's like if you give value all the time, people, and it's good value and it's honest, it's not, then people will again make the decision on their own time, right? And that's what we try to say. Try to stay consistent with that. Like if we give consistent value, it's honest value, then after a while people will come to us because they need it, but they might not be ready at the time. But it's not our job to make them ready. It's our job to be ready when they're ready.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so like that's where the abundance comes in. That's where the teamwork comes in. And that's how it
I
works.
think your business is great. I look forward to seeing whatever it is you're going to be doing in the future as God continues to draw you to herself. And
Yeah. I like the herself part. I heard that. I love it. I'm with that. So that's another thing I like about Ifá. Like there's feminine goddesses or Orisha, and there's masculine. And so you have. I like that. I like when you just said that. So I just wanted to put that out there.
so, William, before we shut this down, I want you to share with people how they can find you on
Oh, so
Facebook, and your
yeah,
website is at fedlegacy.com.
yeah. FedLegacy.com is our website. If you want to book a call with us, you can do it at FedLegacyCall.com. So
Okay.
FedLegacyCall.com will take you to the calendar. You could book a time. FedLegacy.com is our website. This is a static website. We don't update it that much, but if you really want to engage with us, you can go to our Facebook group, which is Fed Legacy on Facebook, and it take you to our group, and it's an active group. We have 1,000 members in there. As Donna mentioned earlier, we do live trainings in there every day. I mean, they're all in there, so you can go back and like binge watch them if you want to. And there's a lot of value, I think. And then if you want to get on our email list, all all you got to do is go to fedlegacycall.com, book a time, and then it will put you automatically on our email list.